Is it a sin to celebrate Halloween? So, I'm going to come out and say this, that I am deep down a Halloween apologist. I absolutely I see Halloween as a Catholic holiday, at least unofficially, because of its relation with All Saints Day, and I will even make a defense of a lot of the spooky stuff and scary imagery, as it's a reminder of the existence of hell and that before the saints reign, we're going to have to endure sin on earth. That it will reign for a time, but it will ultimately be destroyed. When it's used properly, Halloween is a great Catholic holiday. Unfortunately, yeah, recent events of the last year have caused me to re-evaluate some of my take on Halloween. Keep watching to the end. You'll find out what my thoughts are on Halloween now. But let's go and take a look at some of the things I've noticed about Halloween over the years. So, the notion that Halloween is in of itself and objectively a pagan, quote-unquote pagan, holiday comes from a strong Puritan design. It comes from Puritanism, essentially. And when I say Puritanism, I'm not using that as a euphemism. I mean literal, historic Puritans. The Puritans were famous for banning numerous holidays, including Christmas and Easter, and every holiday, and they had a bunch of pseudo-historiography to provide that labeled every holiday pagan. And it's become quite common and popular in common public discourse that all these old Christian holidays are actually pagan in origin. For example, Easter is actually named after Ishtar, the Babylonian mother goddess. Christmas was actually a celebration of the winter solstice. Never mind the fact that when Christmas as a holiday was instituted by the church in December, the solstice had already passed about 2 weeks prior, and that the solstice would have been originally more aligned with the feast of St. Lucy rather than Christmas Day. Never mind the fact that in every Romance language and non-Germanic language throughout the world, Easter is not even called Ishtar Easter at all. It's called Pascha. Go to Canada. Look at the Easter eggs that are selling around Christmas time. Turn it to the French side, you'll see Pascha Oufs. It's not even called Easter. That was just because when the German people and English-speaking people were Christianized, they wanted to call the Christian holiday of Pascha by something that was more regionalistic to their culture. So they called it Eshtar, after a spring holiday they had. But they knew it was about the Jesus rising from the dead, and the date for calculating Easter was never exactly on the spring equinox. It was a spring holiday, and had the equinox had to happen first because it was a spring holiday. But that was really it. It was always Easter was and always has been about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Christmas Day has always been about the birth of Jesus Christ. And the decorations around Christmas time are like evergreens. Well, what else are you going to decorate your house with in the middle of winter? It's freezing cold outside. And same thing with Easter. And in fact, if you go to other cultures where you don't have these spring or winter traditions, you have different imagery for Christmas Day and Easter than we get in the Northern Hemisphere. Something similar has happened with Halloween. So, Halloween, as a holiday, commemorates the dedication of Pantheon in Rome as the Church of All Saints. Essentially, it celebrates how the pagan gods of Rome and the old paganism was done away with, and how the saints of God and the martyrs ultimately triumphed over that paganism. And it's as symbolized in the dedication of the old pagan temple as memorial church to all those who died for the name of Jesus Christ. That is what All Saints Day is all about. And originally, the selection of November 1st was actually to break with pagan traditions. The Pantheon of Rome was actually originally celebrated in the spring when it actually happened. However, it was around that time of year that there also was a pagan festival of the dead in Rome, so they moved it to the fall to break that connection. So if anything, if anything, All Hallows is a break from old pagan traditions. If anything, but what about Samhain? The connection with Samhain and the pagan festival of the fall and of the dead and of when the veil between the realms is torn in two. Celtic mythology. Ooh. Yeah, there are only 365 days in the year, and you're going to and no matter what holiday you pick, you're going to get a holiday that's going to clash with someone else's holiday somewhere else in the world. Especially when we have a lot of holidays. Like, for example, in Japan, they have their own festival of the dead on August 15th, which happens to be the Feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The two have nothing in common except the same day. Canada Day and Independence Day, both which celebrate the independence of their respective countries, have nothing in common with each other except geography, and both countries got independence at the same time of year. And it just happened that we are neighbors. That's really it. Canada Day is not a secret 4th of July for Canadians. And that is essentially the case with All Saints Day. But what of the spooky pagan imagery? That's actually Christian in origin. Now, keep in mind, as Catholics, we, unlike Protestants, do pray for the dead. Look at 2 Maccabees, where it talks about the practice. A book that the Protestants removed from their Bible. And we have devotion to the souls in purgatory, with its own holiday, about 2 days later, November 2nd, where we pray for the dead. And the day before that is All Saints Day, November 1st. So All Hallows is kind of like a vigil for leading into these two holy days. So there's a lot of imagery about the dead and the life after death, etc. And a lot of the spooky imagery has to do with the fact that witches were understood this day as something that they hated because it celebrated how they were being triumphed over. It was also seen as having a certain symbolism to it. How before the saints rule, we have to endure this sinful world, and there is going to be sin, witchcraft, and paganism. That's where all this pagan imagery comes from, witchcraft, and all these notions about death. Which, by the way, the ancient pagans actually were terrified of death. They had graves and burial rituals like everyone else. You have to do something with the dead body. But they would see the cemetery as being unclean. They would see it as something that you should, to a certain extent, avoid. I even had a friend who was a Germanic neo-pagan, and he himself would tell me that actually even necromancy among Germanic neo-pagans was seen as something that you shouldn't really be doing, as it's seen as being disrespectful to the dead. They would have burial mounds, but these were pagan religions, were very much religions about the here and now. And anyone who studied pagan religions, certainly the ones that existed in Europe, these pagan religions were for the here and now, and they were not that concerned with life after death. And indeed, Christian veneration of relics, dead body parts, was something that freaked the Greek and Roman pagans out. Absolutely terrified them. How we would venerate the skulls of saints, etc. Because we as Christians do look forward to the world to come. We do look forward to life after death. We do believe in a heaven. We do believe that we should pray for the dead. And that this life is not about the here and now, but the life hereafter ultimately. So if anything, the spooky, all these imagery of death and skulls and talk about hell is actually very, very, very Christian in origin. Now, that being said, there are certain abuses that have come into the celebration of Halloween over the years, and in many ways, some of them are getting worse. So, for example, if anyone fools around with a Ouija board to celebrate Halloween, or does ghost hunting, etc., or dowsing rods, or anything necromantic, or anything that can be defined as magic or witchcraft. For starters, I don't care what day of the year you're doing that on, you're committing a mortal sin. You need to stop. Period. Full stop. I'm probably going to make another video on why you shouldn't be doing this. Because, unfortunately, I'm aware of some Catholics who are into fortune telling, and quote-unquote Catholics who are into this sort of thing. And that needs to be abandoned. That being said, ultimately, watching a family-friendly, like Casper movie with telling the kids this is just a story, it's not authentic Catholic belief, it's not really real, etc., while taking your kids out for trick-or-treating, getting some candy, and dressing up, is not objectively sinful. And up until very, very, very recently, I would just tell anyone, hey, just go celebrate Halloween. Some events last year changed that. So it'd been a few years. I decided to go to a haunted house at the local university where I lived. I walked through the house, and one of the things that I saw imitations of mock insane asylums, etc., etc. Then I came across a scene where they were mocking a Catholic exorcism in the haunted house. There are a lot of ways I like celebrating Halloween. Literally blaspheming my religion, literally blaspheming the Catholic faith about the expulsion of evil spirits, is not one of them. Mock the devil all you want. That is how Halloween should be celebrated in my view. Mocking the devil, do not mock God. So, how do I see Halloween now? In some ways, like I always did. It is still, in its origin, a Catholic holiday. It is something that we as Catholics should be seeking to reclaim. I visit a cemetery, even maybe some non-Catholic cemeteries, just in case. It's a good way to remember those who are otherwise presumed damned, just in case. Just in case there was a miracle of grace at the last moment. To pray for their souls. It's a good day to pray and fast. In Canada, it's a day of fasting. It's a good day to fast and pray for people who are still involved in witchcraft and paganism. It's a good way to listen to some talks by actual exorcists. Listen to Father Malachi Martin. And to meditate on the fact that there is a hell. And yes, if you have kids, take them trick-or-treating. Maybe make some pumpkin pie. Have a nice fasting day friendly dinner with pumpkin pie. Maybe even some special Halloween flavored treats or desserts. Or from Colin, I looked online, there's some nice Irish recipes for All Hallows that you can make. I would celebrate it like that. And maybe if you're fortunate enough to live in your traditional Catholic parish, most of you watching aren't. I know that's why don't you go to an All Saints party? Yeah, there's no one celebrating All Saints Day near where I live. It's a great day if you can do that, you can celebrate. You can go celebrate go to an All Saints party. No, even the Halloween party. Within due limits, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially in places where it's not a day of mandatory fasting. That said, extreme caution should be exercised when going to other people's Halloween events. just as Shrove Tuesday is a great Catholic holiday, eat your pancakes for Lent, great fun Alas Tara. There's a lot of celebrations that go on Mardi Gras in Louisiana that are just full of fornication and vices, and that you as Catholics need to just stay away from completely. Just avoid it. The same is true of Halloween. There's a lot of blasphemous stuff that goes on in haunted houses. And it's a shame because I do think that there are fun aspects to these things. Like, if you took out that blasphemous thing at my haunted house I went to, I honestly wouldn't find too much of an issue with it. That was like my one real serious issue with that haunted house. My advice, if you're like Halloween and are Catholic, or traditional Catholic, reclaim it. Make those family-friendly, Catholic-friendly Halloween events where there isn't blasphemy, where there isn't all this occult stuff. Have your own Halloween party at your house. Make it wild, make it fun. Yeah, you can do scary jack-o'-lanterns. I love scary jack-o'-lanterns at Halloween. You can always tell my house which one is mine, because mine the one is like the fangs on the pumpkin. Do that. Reclaim Halloween. But realize that even though Halloween is a Catholic celebration and is a holiday that we should 100% must reclaim, you should also be aware that other people don't see it that way and are trying to drag it down to the gutter. That is a day you should be fighting for, and that while some people might, while I certainly disagree with the idea of just abandoning the holiday as a way of resisting these abuses, I also do think it's wise that we need to exercise extreme caution and extreme prudence when celebrating All Hallows Eve. Anyway, Halloween should be approaching by the time this goes up. Hope you have a happy Halloween. Have lots of fun. Get some pumpkin pies and make those jack-o'-lanterns and find a family scary movie. Which, by the way, go to the classics in my advice, because I've seen some remakes. I used to like Hocus Pocus as a kid. It's gotten a lot more sympathetic and glorified. When Hocus Pocus came out, it was the witches were evil. Now the new remake, the witches were seen as being sympathetic, and that their witchcraft was seen as somehow good and justified. Go to the old classics. Don't go to the new remakes. That's my honest opinion. Anyway, happy Halloween, and let's put the Hallow back in Halloween. God bless.